There are lots of CRMs that if you just Google that, you'll find plenty. Some of the bigger names that people might know are Salesforce or HubSpot. But there's a slew of different options out there.
Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. I'm your host, Albert Gillespie.
And I'm your co-host, Kellen Ketchersid. Join us as we bring you stories from business leaders so you can learn from their wins, their losses, and everything in between.
Today's episode is a special episode between me and Kellen, where we talk about one of the biggest issues, the biggest problems that small and medium-sized business owners feel every single day.
Yeah.
And that is consistently communicating with their customers.
Yeah. And it's something that we see in almost every business owner that we talk to once they reach a certain point. It's like you are constantly getting text messages and emails and DMs in social media, and you're writing sticky notes on your desk, or you've got a to-do list, or maybe you've got a bunch of different things, a calendar that you're trying to keep track of everything in all these different places, and it just becomes a mess. And you're just constantly fighting fires when it comes to communication, which is such a huge part of what you do as a business owner. I also think of the business owner who, they're missing their kid's ball game that night because they're trying to get one last thing done, or they got to post on social media this little marketing thing or whatever it might be. And, that's not what you signed up for when you started a business. But before you know it, you're kind of swamped and you need help in that. So many business owners just run into that problem. And, I'm glad that we at Stag Business Coaching have a way to help them get out of that hole. So I guess that's the topic that we're getting into today, which is our solution, the Stag CRM.
Yeah. Tell me, before we jump into that, help me define some terms here.
Yeah.
I feel like we understand the problem. It's everybody feels it. You feel it every single day. Just that, like, what am I forgetting? I need to talk to this person. I need to talk to that person. And people are upset with you. And there's only so much time in a day. And so there are tools.
Right.
And a broad category of tools is a CRM. So help me define that. What is that?
Yeah. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Manager, or management tool. And so it's basically a way to automate the communications that you do on a regular basis with your customers. And that can be via text message. It can be via email. It can even automate social media posting and things like that. The tool that we offer, the Stag CRM, handles all of that. And then there's a lot more. But it's all very well organized in what's called a funnel. So every business has, what they might refer to as a sales funnel. And that's just basically the process of getting your customers. So how do you take somebody who doesn't know anything about what you do, all the way from that not knowing to wanting to sign up to get your service or to buy your product, whatever it might be. And there are certain stages in that process that your customer, your lead or your customer, their journey is going to look like. And so at each of those stages, we can create within this tool, the Stag CRM, some automations that will keep the ball moving down the field so that you make sure that you don't drop the ball. I'm just offhand thinking of a business owner that we have worked with who, before we worked with them, probably was losing $50,000 a year in leads just because they were disorganized in their way that they were following up. And, that is such a common story with business owners. You have an exciting conversation and you think, I need to call that person in 2 weeks. I need to let it marinate a little bit. I can't just follow up tomorrow. And then you got 6 other people, in the next few days that you're talking to, and you forget. So this is a way to kind of make sure you never forget, and it's happening in the background, so you have peace of mind.
Yeah, that's one of those other issues that that is part of that messiness is just remembering where a particular lead or customer or whatever is in that process. That's a lot to keep track of, especially if you have more than 2 sales, which I hope our listeners do. But that, so okay, tell me more about what Stag CRM is, and maybe how is that different from other products out there?
Yeah. So there are lots of CRMs that if you just Google that, you'll find plenty. Some of the bigger names that people might know are Salesforce or HubSpot. But there's a slew of different options out there. So it's not like the Stag CRM is necessarily special in that I would say it's just more targeted to small business owners, small to medium sized business owners like we work with. So I think that our platform is especially helpful in that it provides what they need more than a big corporation, that would need a lot more bells and whistles with their platform. But at the same time, we also make it easy to onboard. So we offer a service where we'll basically help the business owner map out their customer acquisition process and even like what steps need to happen after they've already got that customer, automating communications and updates so that everything just flows seamlessly. Ideally from, like I said, somebody not even knowing who you are all the way through to fulfilling your service contract or fulfilling, delivery of your product and even asking for a Google review afterward. All of that end to end can be automated by our back office team. And then it's just kind of a set it and forget it product after that. So if you're a small business owner and you don't want to necessarily have the budget to hire, a team to do that, it's really nice that these things can be automated.
Yeah. And I appreciate you articulating what that does. And I don't want this entire episode to feel like a commercial, but I think it doesn't go without saying how important it is to have a guide going through there, because some of the higher end products that you can spend $20, $30, $50,000 a year on, you still need to implement it. You still need to adopt it within your business. And I think that's an important thing for our listeners is, okay, if you're going to use a tool that's going to help automate your business, you want to do that with great intention. We talk over and over and over about how do we offer unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah.
And you can through a guide, through Stag coaching, we can map out your customer acquisition process, from someone first hearing about your business to having the first call with you or the first meeting and following up with them and making them feel important.
Yeah.
Making them feel like you can help solve their problem. Giving each one of those, pieces of contact an intention that, we're going to craft. What is it? What does that text say exactly? What's the, right amount of frequency to follow up with somebody? How long of a message do you want it to be? How do you ask, how do you interweave a call to action within that? And that takes some expertise to do that, to navigate that well.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you are going to use a CRM, you want to take the time and take the spend the time, spend the money, like set that up so that is a real tool that your team wants to use because it makes their life easier. It's not this tool that the boss went to some seminar on and comes down from on high and is like, this is going to completely solve all of our problems if you will just input these 47 pieces of data every time you talk to a customer.
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all. Like you do have to put a lot of thought into the building things out, the specifics. We're talking kind of in generality here to begin with. But yeah, if I'm trying to build a marketing campaign, an email drip campaign, or social media, which all of that can be done in that platform, it depends on what type of business you're in as to how often you want to text your customers, for example. Like we've all been a victim of the annoying text message that you immediately delete and block the sender because it's like, get away from me. Why are you bugging me? I don't even know how you got my number. But if done well, those text messages will feel natural. They'll feel like they came from somebody you already interacted with in the business. And it just keeps everything moving along the way it ought to. If it's done well, you might not even realize that you just interacted with an automated text rather than, something that your business owner friend might have sent you anyway. So that's really we're trying to thread that needle. We're trying to hit the target of this feels natural and not annoying, obviously. And actually, I appreciate it. So we depending on your business type, it'll look different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Give me some stories here. Give me some practical examples of what it looks like before and after, whenever you're implementing a CRM.
Sure. So one example, we worked with a insurance adjuster, and he was able to basically cut the amount of time in his work week and his whole team's work week in half, just by implementing some automated messages that would go out. So in his business, there was a ton of back and forth on updates, just like, here's where we're at on this project. We're at this step, and we're hoping in the next 2 weeks to move to the next step, and so on, until people could get their insurance reimbursement. Once all of that communication could be automated, he was saving 20 hours a week of his time and everyone else on the team. And now they're putting all that effort into more sales. And so you can see how the synergy of that is really amazing. It's often not just that you saved this many hours, but now what am I doing with those hours? So I've even added something on top of that. So that's one success story that we have had, just one example of many. But really, it just depends on what business owner. Another business we worked with, retail outlet, and they were looking at the average time between purchases. So if a customer comes to our store, they might come in 9 months later to buy a product again because it takes that long between needing to buy again. If we can just reduce that cycle, that buying cycle time by a month or two, well, we're going to see a huge jump in revenue. And sometimes all a customer needs is just a little text reminder that, hey, that product that you bought 9 months ago or 6 months ago, it might be time to freshen it up, or it might be wearing out. Let's come in for a new one. So thinking strategically about what your bottom line is going to look like if you put in these automations, I think is really important.
Back to the public adjuster, I think of so many service businesses where I say this all the time. I think of the plumber that tells you, hey, I'm going to be there between 12 and 6 p.m. And every wife rolls their eyes. They're so frustrated. Like, okay, I'm going to sit here on my thumb for 6 hours, and then they show up at 7:15, and everyone's upset. And what I think of the service using the CRM is practically in the field. There's apps associated with this that you can drag a customer from, this card to this card. That's, hey, we're scheduled your appointment. I'm going to drag them to this one. We're on our way. Yep. And it automatically sends a text. Hey, your service engineer is on their way right now.
Yeah, they should be there in 10 minutes.
Yes, exactly. And that's great, communicating with your customer, just setting expectations. Everyone's so much happier when you just communicate with them.
Yeah.
But also as a business owner and leader, you can see the status of your entire business, in a little nice, easy to follow dashboard.
Yeah.
You can see what everyone is doing, how, who's been stuck in a particular spot longer than others. And it's just a great diagnostic tool as well for your business. And I think it's great. It's especially effective for the service-based businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the dashboard. When we first started our coaching, I was building out these KPI dashboards for customers that were, in another platform. And it was so much work. Really not a scalable way to do it at all, Ironic, as a business coach, I wasn't practicing what I preach very well. But this platform, the Stag CRM, just makes that automatic. And that's a beautiful thing when somebody just starts using this platform, and now you've got data that you're collecting. And, even down to, like I mentioned earlier, I can see how many people open the emails that we're sending out, or how many people are leaving a Google review after, what are the percentage of reviews that are positive, negative, whatever. Respond to those in real time if they're, say below 4 stars or something. It's really cool how many things the platform is able to do. But again, I think that can be daunting to a new business owner, which is why it's great that we have a team of onboarding experts and support specialists that can help jump in and say, hey, we'll build you that automation. Or, oh, you're not sure how to use this feature on the social media planner. Like, we'll show you how to schedule those posts or whatever it might be, or even make the post for you.
Yeah. That's one thing, like actually writing the copy, writing the social media posts, writing the text that you're sending. Like we have a team that can do that. And
AI is not going to cut it. I know a lot of people think, oh, I'll just use an AI to write all of my social media posts. It might give you a starting point, but it takes a human touch to get things from that, like 80 or 90% of the way there, to being something that people actually engage with and really believe, because it has to have that human touch.
I couldn't agree more. Okay. Talk to me about the social media aspect. I guess first, like, what do businesses need to be doing, and what's like kind of best practices? And then how does this tool help with that?
Yeah. So I think consistency is key on social media posting. And I think as far as being picked up by an algorithm, that's what people find. So it's not necessarily that you need to be posting every day or every third day or whatever. It's just whatever rhythm you pick, stick with that and make sure that you're consistent with it. But as far as using the CRM as a tool for that, it makes it super easy because you can schedule posts. You can also schedule posts to recur. So a lot of people think, well, I can schedule things in my Meta Business Suite or whatever. But scheduling so that they'll recur every 90 days. Or if you have someone on your team that does social media for you, they can actually schedule it to post pending your approval. And so you can have things run through, an approval process, which is great. Anytime the business owners we work with hire our team to do their social media graphic design for them, we always schedule it per the owner's approval or someone on their team. So it's nice. There's a lot of features like that just make it super easy to be consistent and have that online presence and that brand voice that you want.
Yeah. We talk a lot about what we call evergreen content, which is, somewhere between 30 and 50 pieces of
flair.
No, just like telling your business's story. Like what problem do you solve? Educate your customer of like how you make their lives easier, how you make their lives better. And you're just telling people about the business.
Yeah.
And they call it evergreen because it never dies. You keep rotating through it. And so I think it can be as simple as, let's create, 30 pieces of evergreen content, set it to recur in the CRM. And then it's exciting things that happen. It's, hey, we just finished this job. Look at these results. And you post that kind of one-off, but you really have this consistent voice that is educating your customer, telling them that you're out there, telling them that hey, I'm trying to help you solve a problem, and setting that and forgetting.
Yeah.
It's really powerful, and it's really it's a lot simpler than people make it out to be. You can make it endlessly complex, but really just telling your story and how you solve the customer's problem, and then doing that in like a systematic way.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
And if you're a small business owner, you want to do the most efficient thing you can, right? Because you're wearing a lot of hats. And so, posting things that can recur like that and never get old, because there are parts of what you do as a business owner or what your business offers that are always going to be the same. but you still want to put that out there to people and remind them that we're here. Give us a call. One thing that's funny is like, it's not often that you're going to hit like on a social media post for some boring business that offers a boring service to you, right? So a lot of business owners that we work with kind of get caught up in, hey, I'm not seeing any likes on my post. And it's like, that's okay, especially with the kind of posts that you're putting out there. It's more about just the rhythm of people seeing it and remembering you. It's like if you're like me, you ignore every car commercial that comes on until you're ready to buy a car. And then like every single one, you're kind of checking it out. It's just a cliche, but that's how it works across industries. So don't get discouraged if, your insurance adjuster posts or your, whatever it might be are not getting a ton of likes. Like just know that the customer's seeing it. And when they're looking for your service, they're going to be excited.
Yeah. You're building credibility.
Right.
I think of this podcast, we don't have 1 million likes on every post, but when we're around town, like that's a conversation starter that we aren't leading, and a lot of people, it's just building credibility. They see it repeatedly over time, and then it sticks in their brain.
Yeah. It makes a difference. I mean, I can still rattle off, sing to you the Bigum's barbecue jingle from 2005. Because, it's like, there are just certain things
Go ahead.
You don't want to hear me do that. But there's so many advertising, marketing strategies that you may not realize how they're working, but they're working. And the Stag CRM is a great platform to help our business owners do that in a simple, automated way where they are not having to constantly remember or stay up late, during the kids' game or practice. So,
okay. So we've walked through the different steps here. And so initially with a client, we're mapping out their customer acquisition and customer fulfillment processes.
Yeah.
How does someone hear about you up to execute a point of sale? And then once you've sold the product, how do you go from there to delivering the product to product, service, whatever, to the customer? And so we're mapping that out. And then we are determining what portions of that can be automated and integrated within the CRM. Then we use our onboarding team. So we have a back office onboarding team that can help write the copy for text, for emails, for social media, and we're
create the automations, help with support for business owners who are kind of stuck on learning the platform. Yeah, they do a lot.
Yeah. And so they're building all of that out. And then we are helping your team get acclimated. We've got to use this. We're going to put our contacts into here, our customer names, numbers, email addresses into this software.
Which if somebody already has that in an Excel sheet or some other place, like it's really easy to quickly upload all at once. So that's not as daunting as it might sound.
Right. And so kind of sequentially here is then you have a team that can hold your hand as you are using this software, and you're going to have questions.
Yep.
You're going to think you messed it up, and you need a team that you can continue to talk to of like, all right, when I click this button, what is that sending to my customer? Is that a good thing? and having someone local who can hold your hand, walk you through that process. Ultimately, like your communication's going to improve. You're going to get more sales. You're going to feel like you got time back. You're going to get your sanity back.
Yeah. And having it crafted where it sounds like it's coming from a real person in West Texas, because I don't think people realize this, but Texans and even West Texas, we have a certain informal, like down to earth way of doing things. We're not highfalutin and fancy all the time. We're just down to earth, salt of the earth people. And that's how you want to be engaged with somebody who's real. And the experience needs to feel authentic. And I think that's where we really shine in helping a business owner think about that messaging that's going out so that it feels normal. And and natural and good, so that, hey, yeah, I want to keep working with you.
Okay, we've talked through the different steps, kind of the flow of what it looks like from start to full implementation.
Yep.
What does this look like 5 years from now?
You mean for somebody who is using the CRM?
Yeah.
Or I think it has a snowball effect on a business. So when somebody first starts using the CRM, the first thing they're going to feel is the weight of a lot of repetitive tasks being lifted off. But I think as time goes by, and if those automated messages, if the automated invoicing, which we haven't even gotten into, or social media posting, or different aspects of how they handle the business are done well, now they're going to feel like sales are starting to roll in without them having to do a ton of work. Qualified leads are the ones that are coming to them. We have another friend who's a business owner using the same platform, and he actually implemented it in a franchise, and it was in the Lubbock market. And he started getting calls from corporate saying, "What are you doing?" Like, his particular location was getting way more business volume than like some of the major markets franchisees were getting in, like Dallas and Houston and other places. And it was because he had dialed in the automations on this platform to really draw in leads, and they were better qualified leads. So he was talking to the same number of leads a day, but these were just converting. Whereas, he might have to talk to, 10 times as many people beforehand to get a sale. So it really will make a huge difference. And if you multiply that at over 5 years is your example, it's hard to say how much that's going to impact the business, but I can tell you it'll be a lot. Like we said, we had one business owner who's only been using this platform for 9 months or so, and he's already doubled his revenue. So I think that's an incredible return on investment.
So what are the pushbacks? Like, if I'm a business owner or business leader, why would I not do this?
I can't think of a good reason, unless you're just like, if you're just super early stage, like solopreneur, but even then I would say it'd probably be worth the investment once you're busier than you need to be. Any business owner who gets to the point where they feel like their time is valuable and they're not just sitting there doing nothing, like, you need to have this. So really, anybody who's a serious business owner, even early stage, I think this is a no-brainer. It's one of the first things you do, probably before you even make your first hire. So
I couldn't agree more. What parting thoughts? What's the final takeaway, final point?
Yeah, I think really, I guess this is kind of zooming out, not necessarily talking about a CRM or Stag CRM, but just big picture as a business owner, thinking about your time as your most precious resource. And we often, as business owners, get into the rut of thinking that we should do everything because we can do it well. Or, sometimes because you just enjoy that aspect of the business. But really, if you value your time enough, you're going to look for ways to automate. You're going to look for ways to put in systems and processes and not just have everything run through you. And there's some people out there who are super talented, have incredible bandwidth, and like anybody could look at a person like that and be like, wow, that's amazing how much you're able to do. But honestly, I'm more impressed by the guy who's not doing as much and has time for his kids and his church and the things that he cares about, gets in, can go on vacation, or, some hobbies, some growth kind of things. That's a more complete person. And so it's not like we want you to be pulled out of your business, but we want you to focus your time and attention on the things that really matter and energize you as a business owner. And I think the Stag CRM is just an example of a tool that can do that. So
well said, man. Well said. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this is a much needed episode, especially as this offering has grown, and there's a lot to offer here. And so I appreciate you jumping on with me.
Yeah, I'm excited. If anybody out there is interested in learning more about our CRM, you can give us a call. Our number is 806-855-0774, and you can find us at stagcoaching.com.
All right. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one.